Hello again, Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. We've got Nicholas Gluba here. He's running for governor. Welcome, Nick.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me.
I guess I should have asked right out of the chute. My mom gets prickly about this when people call me anything other than Michael. Should I be saying Nicholas?
Honestly, it doesn't matter. In fact, most people usually refer to me by my last name because the name Nick or Nicholas is so incredibly common. If you're in a room with 20 or more people, there's bound to be two of us. Very similar to the name Michael, which very just fun fact. All of my friends named Michael are all just put in my phone as Mike. So when I open my phone to call any of them, it's a random guess on which one.
That's okay. Well, life's supposed to be fun. There's no reason not to. I'm going to add to stage our candidate files here, our blog, because we talked about the Second Amendment being a universal litmus test to gut check any politician. And then we have our 4 questions, which are part of our legislative agenda. I'd like to ask you. Then I'd like to turn the stage over to you. Are you okay with we begin?
Sounds great. Let's go ahead and start.
Here we go, sir. First question. Here's the context. History has shown that no-gun zone policies do not protect those gathered at schools and other designated locations. In fact, some of the worst mass murders have deliberately targeted these sites because they expected little or no armed resistance. Federal law and the laws of some states permit qualified individuals with valid carry permits to possess firearms in schools on school property. The question to you is this. Will you support changing the Iowa code to recognize an Iowa permit to carry as sufficient for carry in any school?
So my answer on this is absolutely. We're by enabling people to carry concealed into a school or any building throughout the state of Iowa, that changes any soft target into a hard target. So anybody that would have malicious intent would see that and immediately think, well, maybe that is not the place to go. If nobody wants to run into danger. So if somebody knows that there is the presence of firearms in the building, they're much, much less likely to cause a malicious event in said building. And that goes for schools as well as any public building. If you were, say, a person that wanted to do harm to others, you would want to go for the massive event that it was possible. And if there is potential resistance, that massive event is no longer possible. So stop it at the ground and allow people with permits to carry in buildings.
Fair enough. Thank you. Second question. Here's the context. When employers ban firearms or ammunition in private vehicles or on company property, employees must choose between violating company policy and forfeiting their ability to lawfully defend themselves during their commute or daily activities. The Iowa Firearms Coalition believes the appropriate balance between employer property rights and individual rights, including privacy and self-defense, lies at the locked door of a private vehicle. The laws of at least 26 states recognize and uphold this balance. Your question. Will you support legislation to protect Iowans from the de facto firearm ban on private and public employer parking lots?
So that one, I am definitely in full support because I personally have violated that rule multiple times. I carry at all times. I usually have a weapon in my vehicle, and the way that I have understood the law is a locked vehicle is considered the same as your locked home, at the national level. So having a firearm in, say, your glove box, in the center console of your truck, whatnot, in your locked vehicle is the same as you having a firearm in your home. And as you can see, I support having firearms in the home. And that's not all of them. That actually is just a special wall of they have various reasons for being there. But if you want to carry a firearm, now should you carry it in the building that you work at? If they have rules against it, no. Various companies have their own individual reasons. It is their building, so it is up to them. But in their parking lot, absolutely, have your firearm in your parking lot. I know we had, where I work years ago, we had a guy that, so he rode a motorcycle to and from work, so he couldn't actually physically keep the firearm in a locked vehicle. He didn't have a compartment on his motorcycle large enough to carry it. So what we had him do was just remove the firing pin, place that in the vehicle, and then had essentially a chunk of metal, well, mostly polymer, in the building, which we had no issues with. But then also we were all fairly pro gun at work. It's just our bosses well above us have some issues, but we decided that was good enough for us.
Fair enough. Thank you. Let's move on to the third question real quick. Here's the context. Since 1934, federal law has strictly regulated, but not prohibited, the private ownership of machine guns, suppressors, short barrel rifles, and shotguns, and other items regulated under the National Firearms Act. Iowa classifies many of these items as offensive weapons in Iowa Code Section 724.1. Iowa has allowed private ownership of suppressors, SBRs, SBS, and more for nearly a decade without issue. Nationwide, crimes committed with NFA weapons are virtually non-existent. Iowa's one of only 14 states that bans items like machine guns, which are completely legal on a federal level. The Supreme Court's Bruin decision is being cited to overturn bans and challenge the remaining injustices scattered across America. Your question is this: will you support removing 724.1 and related statutes from Iowa Code?
Yes, and for multiple reasons. One, the NFA in and of itself is illegal. The Second Amendment to the federal, to the United States Constitution says shall not be infringed of the rights of the individual for firearm ownership. The NFA is an infringement, so it is inherently illegal. The only way it got around was the fact that the NFA was considered a tax, and Congress is allowed to levy taxes per the Constitution. Well, that tax is no longer there. That $200 stamp has been removed, which makes the NFA completely illegal at this point in time. Now it's just a registration for firearms and a restriction of various different classes of firearms, like your SBAs, your SBRs. And myself personally, I'm not pro SBA or SBS or SBRs, legitimately just because it lowers ballistic coefficients. If you want to have one, go for it. It's just not my personal choice. If I want a shorter rifle, I generally just go with a pistol caliber carbine. They're much better designed for that application. Then as far as machine guns are already prohibited without legal statute. If you wanted to buy one, these things are insanely expensive. And then, so say the machine gun that I've used by far more than any other was the M240. Technically be the M240 Golf would be the one that we use the most. But we did transition into M240 Bravos, which fires the 7.62 by NATO cartridge, or 308 is more commonly known as here in the United States. That is cost prohibitively expensive because it shoots 650 to 950 rounds per minute at an average price of roughly $1 per round. Most Americans can't afford that. So do I think you should be able to buy a machine gun? Absolutely. Good luck affording to shoot it, or I hope you have an amazing reloading setup. Mine's not nearly good enough to warrant the 650 rounds per minute cyclic action of an M240. But if you've got the money, and honestly, if you've got the money to afford cyclic operation on a machine gun, you're probably not committing a whole lot of crime to begin with. Or if you are, it's probably white collar crime, and the machine gun's not involved.
All right, thank you. So let's go on to our fourth and last question. Here's the context. The Iowa Firearms Coalition supports the creation of a specially Gadsden flag, license plate in Iowa, to recognize and celebrate Second Amendment rights while affirming opposition to government overreach. The plate would serve as a voluntary funding source for firearms safety and educational programs through an additional registration fee. Although the proposal passed the Iowa House with bipartisan support in 2024 and 2025, it failed to advance in the Senate. In 2006, Senate leadership, after having given personal assurance, we're going to get it done, offered Iowans, bait and switch bill funding bureaucracies, the NRC, along with the Homeland Security and Emergency Management. That was Senate File 2409. IFC is encouraging Iowans to support the measure, which we believe reflects the will of the people, particularly following the overwhelming adoption of Iowa's Freedom Amendment. Featuring the historic Don't Tread on Me motto, the Gadsden flag has long symbolized individual liberty and resistance to unnecessary government intrusion, making it a fitting choice for a specially licensed plate. The question is this: will you support the Gadsden plate legislation that directs voluntary funding for 2A education, safety, and training?
So, absolutely. And then I'll go above that. So I'm a United States Marine. That's what I did immediately out of high school. And if you know the history of the Gadsden flag, that was the Marine Corps flag back in November, December of 1775. So not only would I say, yes, absolutely, let's go ahead and start making this plate and have those proceeds go to, 2A education and firearms safety and education training. I'd say I would buy at least 3 for my vehicles right now. 4, but that's assuming the other vehicle gets to a running and operable condition.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to share your website here. We've got it pulled up here. And social media is cracking down on us. They don't like us to offer website domain names, just in case something would not pass muster with our user agreement with them that stems from the site. So instead of giving the domain name, I'm going to say, if somebody was to search for Gluba, the word "for" and the word Iowa, I am confident they'll get to your site. And Gluba is Gluba. So Nicholas Gluba is the Libertarian candidate running for governor. Tell us a little bit about yourself. The floor is yours, sir.
So myself, Nicholas Gluba, I was born here in Iowa. I was born in Iowa City, Iowa, not terribly far away from where I live right now, which is Lone Tree. I was raised on a cattle ranch / pig farm out in the Williamsburg and Parnell area. Then I would say a very, very pivotal moment in my life, along with many other people roughly in my age range, was Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, and which, I was still in school at the time, and we had seen what had happened, and I immediately thought, well, need to do something about that. So that's why I joined the United States Marine Corps, did my time with the Marines, and then it was actually through Marines, my fellow Marines there, that I'd kind of fallen into disillusionment with our political system, and that is why I became a libertarian myself. After my time in the Marines, went and did some school, got various different jobs, and just kind of been a very average working class Iowan since then. And the reason why I decided that I should run for governor is I believe the average Iowan does need representation in Iowa's government. There's been, for far too long, we've seen very, very wealthy people in the position of government throughout the state of Iowa. And it has been made very prohibitive for people that are in the middle class areas to be able to get to different positions in government. So that's one of the things that I've been working on. And then, as far as my personal beliefs in government, property rights above everything, because all rights inherently stem from property rights, whether that is the property that you own or yourself as property, because you yourself and your body are inherently your property.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm looking down through the site. For those of you listening, you'll be able to, as I said before, use Gluba for Iowa, and you can navigate there. Check out the site. But for those of you watching, I'm going down through here and looking through the issues and priorities on your site. Obviously, we want people to go check out candidates. Tell us how people can be involved with you, support what you're doing, participate in your campaign, volunteer, learn where you're speaking. Let us know how you want us to connect with you, Nicholas. What's the scoop?
So if you go to the website, there is a contact me option on there. Those emails will go directly to my phone that I have on me almost all day. Or then I'm also on Facebook. I'm on X, or formerly known as Twitter. Very active on Facebook, significantly less active on X, simply because I'm not really a social media person myself. I try to spend about 15 minutes on Facebook every day, just organizing all of that. But then any comments or anything that you make on the site, on Facebook, on X, that will come to me, and I'll respond as quickly as I can.
Fantastic. Okay, so you were kind enough to come on today. You've answered our 4 questions. That's a part of our the chief among our legislative priorities. We've talked a little bit about what makes you you. We've shown the website here. Is there anything else before we go that you'd like for us to know?
I can't think of a whole lot else. We've covered a lot of good things here, and and then you allowed me to just speak after that, which that allows me to cover anything that we don't cover in these questions. But as I've said, I'm a very pro 2A person. I believe so long as you have rights under the government, you have the rights to own whatever firearm that you decided you want, whether that be a little 380 pistol because you have small hands, or you have felt recoil issues, or heck, if you want a Smith & Wesson 500, and just by all means have fun.
Okay, I appreciate that. All right, let me get back here to our basic screen. We'll sign off, and this will go out. Feel free to share it everywhere that you'd like. Everybody pay attention. We've got some really great candidates for governor. I want everybody to read through these things, listen through these things, make good choices. That's what this process is about. Nicholas Gluba, running for Iowa governor. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me on, Michael.
Bye now.